Across the ruins of forgotten worlds, stones still whisper. They speak of builders who once believed their empires would last forever, of kings who commanded the sun, of thinkers who bent reason to their will, of artisans who carved their dreams into marble. Yet time, patient and impartial, outlived them all. What if the wisdom that could guide our uncertain future is not written in the code of machines but engraved in the silence of those ruins? What if the answers to surviving tomorrow lie not in innovation alone, but in understanding the eternal rhythm by which civilizations rise, flourish, and fall? From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia to the gleaming roads of Rome, from the scholars of Alexandria to the architects of imperial Britain, humanity has always been both creator and destroyer, visionary and fool. The past does not simply haunt us, it instructs us. In this journey through history, we will uncover the enduring foundations that ancient societies laid beneath the march of progress. Principles of order, balance, and foresight that echo even now. For every age that believed itself invincible eventually faced the same reckoning, when pride overshadowed prudence and ambition forgot wisdom. So let us walk once more through the corridors of time, listening not only to what history remembers, but to what it tried to warn us about. Civilization began not with conquest, but with cooperation. Long before the first stone city rose, humankind gathered around rivers, the Tigris, the Nile, the Indus, seeking the same things we do today: safety, sustenance, and purpose. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians learned to tame floods and measure the stars. They invented writing not for poetry, but for order, lists of grain, of trade, of kings. From such practical lines grew the art of law and record. Society itself was born from the need to remember. In Egypt, civilization found rhythm in the Nile's eternal pulse. Pharaohs ruled not only with might but with ritual. The concept of Ma'at, harmony and justice, governed the cosmos as much as the court. He who is great in Ma'at, an ancient inscription declares, will live forever. Balance was not a metaphor. It was survival. Meanwhile, in the valleys of the Indus, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa revealed a quiet genius. Their streets followed mathematical precision. Their drains carried waste unseen. Their weights and measures spoke of fairness in trade. No grand monuments to ego were left, only evidence of a society that valued equality over display. Each civilization, though distant, shared one foundation: the understanding that progress must serve community, not consume it. The moment control of water, crops, or craft turned from shared resource to private power, the seeds of collapse were sown. The earliest myths reflected this awareness. The Epic of Gilgamesh, carved on clay nearly 5 millennia ago, tells of a king who sought immortality and found only humility. Life, which you look for, you will never find, said the immortal Utnapishtim. When the gods created man, they kept eternal life in their own hands. The message endures. Technology without temperance leads not to salvation but to sorrow. Thus began the first lesson of civilization, a truth older than empire. Human greatness is sustainable only when it respects the limits of nature and the dignity of. The first cities had tamed the elements. Now they would seek to master destiny itself. From Egypt's sunlit kingdoms to Greece's marble temples and Rome's endless roads, the story of civilization turned into a race for greatness. Humanity had learned to build, but now it learned to rule. As empires rose, so too did ambition. The Egyptians perfected monumental architecture not merely as worship, but as legacy. Each pyramid was a message to eternity. We were here. We mattered. Yet beneath the grandeur, a philosophy quietly pulsed, that order and faith were the true cornerstones of strength. Men perish, said one hieroglyphic prayer, but their works remain. In the Mediterranean, Greece became a crucible of human thought. The philosophers of Athens asked questions that no empire had dared to ask before. What is virtue? What is justice? What makes a society good? Socrates taught that wisdom begins in recognizing one's own ignorance. Plato envisioned a republic ruled by philosopher kings. Aristotle observed that man is by nature a political animal. From these words grew the framework of governance that would echo through millennia, from Roman law to the British Constitution. But Greece also revealed civilization's dual nature, brilliance and fragility intertwined. The same democracy that fostered art and philosophy could not resist envy, division, and hubris. When Athens and Sparta turned upon each other in the Peloponnesian War, the cradle of Western thought cracked. In its ashes, a new empire stirred: Rome. Rome learned from Greece's failures and magnified its strengths. It built not just cities but systems, the machinery of order. Roman roads carried not only legions, but law, language, and culture. Civis Romanus sum, declared every citizen, "I am Roman." It was a phrase of belonging, pride, and privilege. For centuries, this unity under law made Rome not merely powerful, but stable. The Senate debated, the legions conquered, and aqueducts brought water to millions. But with mastery came a subtle blindness. Expansion became identity. Victory became addiction. The historian Livy warned of this as early as the 1st century BC. We have become too great for our own good. In its rise, Rome began to lose the very discipline that had raised it. From Greece's reason to Rome's order, civilization entered its golden age, a time when human achievement seemed limitless. Yet beneath the marble and the rhetoric, history whispered a warning that no empire, however enlightened, can outrun its own shadow. Every step upward carries the risk of the fall. By the height of the first millennium, civilization had reached an awe-inspiring zenith. In the East, the Han dynasty mirrored Rome's grandeur with science, bureaucracy, and art. In the sands of the Middle East, scholars preserved the light of learning as Europe darkened. And on the Isles of Britain, a new story began, one that would someday redefine empire itself. Rome's roads reached the misty edges of the known world, Britannia. To the Romans, these lands were both wild and wondrous, a frontier of mystery and opportunity. Towns like Londinium and Eboracum became outposts of Roman civilization, carrying Latin law and urban order to the edge of the map. But as the empire stretched its borders, cracks deepened at its core. The strain of empire, its armies, its economy, its ego began to outweigh the strength that built it. When Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations, he spoke as a philosopher trapped in a soldier's world. What we do now echoes in eternity. He believed in duty and virtue, yet even he could not halt the decay that spread beneath the surface of Rome's splendor. Corruption, complacency, and inequality hollowed out the republic's foundations. And as history so often repeats, the moment of triumph was also the beginning of decline. When Rome fell, not in a single battle, but in a long surrender to chaos, it seemed the lights of civilization were extinguished. Yet they were not. They moved. To the east, Byzantium preserved the flame of order. In Baghdad, the House of Wisdom translated Greek thought into Arabic, keeping alive the philosophies that Europe would one day reclaim. And in Britain, the legacy of empire became legend. In the myths of Arthur, the stone circles, and the idea that knowledge, once gained, could never truly die. The height of civilization had been reached. The lesson was about to begin. When the empires of antiquity fell, it seemed for a time that darkness had triumphed. Libraries burned, cities crumbled, and the monuments of human brilliance stood like hollow ghosts in the dust. Yet history, like nature, abhors a void. Out of ruin, new roots always find a way to grow. The fall of Rome was not the end, it was a transformation. Across the ruins of its roads and forts, new powers rose. In Europe, the fragments of empire gave birth to kingdoms, the Franks, the Saxons, and the Celts, each carving their own story upon the old foundations. In Britain, the Roman departure left behind more than stones. It left ideas of law, of unity, of roads that led somewhere beyond the horizon. These seeds, though buried beneath centuries of invasion and conflict, would one day sprout again. The Middle Ages were not a time of darkness, but of incubation. Monks in silent abbeys copied the wisdom of Greece and Rome, line by line, preserving the essence of a world that had almost vanished. In the great monasteries of Iona and Lindisfarne, candlelight became the torch of civilization. Each manuscript saved was a spark, small but unextinguished. Then, something miraculous began to stir. Trade returned. Curiosity rekindled. The Renaissance, born from the rediscovery of ancient texts, reminded Europe that the human mind was its greatest empire. From Florence to London, artists, scientists, and thinkers sought not only to imitate the ancients but to surpass them. Leonardo sketched the anatomy of flight. Copernicus reimagined the heavens. Shakespeare gave language new soul. And Britain, distant, storm-battered, unyielding, rose as the new inheritor of civilization's mission. Its explorers crossed oceans once thought endless. Its scientists rewrote the laws of nature. And its thinkers reshaped politics, industry, and morality. In every port and every classroom, echoes of past empires whispered. Remember, greatness is not in conquest, but in creation. The legacy of the ancients was alive, but so too were their warnings. For even as humanity rose again, it repeated familiar patterns. Greed, power, division. The British Empire, at its height, mirrored Rome in its reach and confidence. Roads became railways, legions became fleets, and colonies became provinces. But history is cyclical, and every cycle carries a reckoning. When the 20th century dawned, 2 world wars shattered the illusion of invincibility. The industrial power that had lifted humanity now built weapons capable of erasing it. Empires collapsed not with swords, but with signatures on paper. And as Britain's colonies sought freedom, the empire that had once ruled the seas began its long transformation into something else. A nation defined not by conquest, but by culture, language, and memory. From Rome's rise to Britain's twilight, the story remained the same. Civilization survives not through dominance, but through the wisdom it carries forward. Every collapse was a lesson, every ruin a reminder, every age a rehearsal for the next. Every civilization leaves behind 2 legacies, the ruins that crumble and the myths that endure. And sometimes the myths outlast the stones. We are told that the Romans were invincible, that the Egyptians held divine secrets, that the Greeks birthed reason itself. But beneath the polished tales of greatness lie deeper, messier truths, ones that reveal not just their brilliance, but their fragility. Myth 1. Civilizations fall suddenly. In truth, collapse is never a single event. It is a slow erosion. Rome did not fall in a day, nor did Egypt's temples vanish overnight. They declined through neglect, corruption, and the simple exhaustion of overreach. It's a sobering reminder for us. Decay begins not with disaster, but with complacency. The moment a society believes it is eternal, its end has already begun. Myth 2. Progress is linear. We like to believe humanity moves forward in a straight line, from primitive to advanced, from dark to enlightened. Yet history paints another story. The fall of one age often births another. The so-called Dark Ages were not dark at all. They were the soil from which modern Europe grew. Progress, it seems, is not a road but a spiral, sometimes upward, sometimes down, always circling back to questions our ancestors once asked. Myth 3. Ancient civilizations were entirely different from us. Walk through the ruins of Pompeii, and you'll find graffiti, fast food stalls, and political slogans that could have been written yesterday. Their ambitions, fears, and follies were our own. They too worried about taxes, climate, and war. They too dreamed of immortality through legacy. The truest mirror of humanity is history, and when we look into it, we see not strangers but ourselves. Myth 4. Technology guarantees survival. Rome had engineering that astonished the world. Aqueducts that carried water hundreds of miles, concrete that endured millennia. Yet technology did not save it. When political unity shattered and trust eroded, no invention could hold the empire together. Our modern world, with satellites in orbit and data pulsing through invisible networks, should take heed. It is not what we build, but how we govern what we build, that determines our fate. Myth 5. Collapse means the end. Perhaps the most dangerous myth of all. In truth, every collapse is also a creation. When one civilization dies, its ideas scatter like seeds, carried by wind and time to sprout elsewhere. Greek thought nourished Rome. Roman law guided Britain. British ideals of governance shaped democracies worldwide. History's greatest truth may be this: Destruction and renewal are not opposites. They are partners in an endless dance. But myths have their purpose. They inspire, they teach, and they warn. The legend of Atlantis, the fall of Rome, the curse of Babylon. Each reminds us that power, unchecked, turns to dust. And each whispers the same timeless truth. The greatest walls are built not from stone, but from wisdom. So what can we learn from all this? That the future does not belong to the strongest, the richest, or even the most technologically advanced. It belongs to those who learn, truly learn, from the past. From Sumer's first bricks to Britain's last colonies, humanity's story has always been a pendulum between hubris and humility. Every age believes it is permanent. Every age discovers it is not. But if we listen, if we truly listen, the echoes of the ancients still speak. Build, but build wisely. Advance, but never forget your roots. Dream, but remember, every empire is mortal. And so, as we stand on the edge of another uncertain century, with artificial intelligence, climate shifts, and fractured politics, perhaps our greatest hope lies not in new inventions, but in old lessons. For history does not repeat itself, but it rhymes, in perfect time, with the human heart. Those who do not learn from history, wrote philosopher George Santayana, are condemned to repeat it. But those who understand history, they are the ones who will write the next chapter. The future's foundation, it seems, has already been laid, stone by stone, thought by thought, across the centuries. Our task now is simple: build upon it with wisdom. This has been another journey through time from Legends of Britain. If you enjoyed this story and believe history still has lessons for the world ahead, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.